Matthew 5 and beginning at verse 43. We've heard people quote the scripture that, God says he sends the rain on the just and the unjust alike, but seldom do we hear what comes before that. So go back to verse 43, Matthew 5:43. You have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies. I should just stop right there, because that's probably the most impossible thing for humankind to do. But love your enemies, bless them that curse you. It's another seemingly impossible feat. How can you bless people that curse you? Do good to them that hate you. Okay, Jesus. Pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Really? That ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. And I want you to take note of something. See something very, very simple and subtle. For he maketh his sun, not just the sun, as in the simple laws of nature, but he maketh his sun to rise on the evil, and he puts the evil first, and the good. Now, I was reading this, wanting to use this passage out of the teaching of Malachi today, and I thought, it's too easy to say the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike and not recognize he is the sender of rain, and it is his sun, it's his sky, he's the creator. So when we talk about injustices of people, as I was pointing out through Malachi, we should best understand that God has the capacity to bless those people, just as he instructs us to bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you. He has the capacity and does quite often. You will meet people who are the recipient. They stand outside the same sphere outdoors as you, and the sun comes up for them as well as for you and for me. The business of loving your enemies, blessing them that curse you, doing good, all of these concepts must be taken in the framework that on our own we're not capable. But with the deposit that he places in us of his nature, that same nature that makes us givers, that same nature, it is his nature in us, makes the capacity to read this and say, by faith, I see the words, I understand them. I may not be able to fulfill them. It's that walk, it's that journey that you look at, but you understand that God's sun, he makes his sun to rise on the evil. So when you talk about the wicked prospering, don't think that God has just turned his back. He makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good alike, and sendeth the rain, it's his rain, on the just and the unjust. So when people talk about what's fair and what's not, ultimately God knows how he's going to divvy up the lot. It says here, sheep and goats, wheat and tares. He lets certain things grow together until it's time to separate. So part of that framework within Malachi's message is the Lord knows. The Lord knows. He's not asking us for perfection. He is asking us for trust. The Lord knows. Sometimes when we look over and we say, maybe it's with envy, maybe it's with absolute disbelief, that we see people, we see them doing wrong. We know they're doing wrong. And we're not talking about Christian checkbox. We're talking about blatant things that are outrageous. But then that's why I said, go back and remember the beam and mote. We start first with look to yourself. And that's why I said to you, I took a strong message from Malachi and kind of sat and meditated on the fact that so many people are so quick to rush in and say, why this or why that? Take a minute and look at yourself and recognize that's why we all need God's grace. And he said his grace is sufficient, but we all need God's grace. No one will make it in on their own, and God ultimately decides. But be certain of this. He continues on, the completion of this section. He says, for if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? I've often looked at this and thought, I see Romans 5 right there. He loved us. He bought us. He saved us before we knew him. And ultimately, he paid with the price of his son. So I look through the framework of Jesus and think, yeah, you're right, except most of the time I fall miserably short of it. And that's why the standard of perfection can't be, I think I can do it, or I'm achieving, or we're doing, but it's all placed in trusting Christ, abiding in him. He says here, for if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans, isn't that what they do as well also? So he says, be therefore perfect. And I've heard people say that means act a certain way. And I've said to you before, it is the work that he is working in us. And the method and means, by the way, of affliction and trial and persecution, which I mentioned, is the process to the perfecting. It is not done through spiritual massage and feel-good vibrations that make you tingle from head to toe. It's done through the unpleasantries. It's done through the humiliation of life's experiences that you probably wish you had made better decisions. But it all comes down to this. At no point is he saying, be perfect now. Go and act perfect. But the perfection comes via these things I've described. So I thought it was equally important to mention this because I've been living in, at least for the last 2 weeks, I've been living in Matthew 5 through 7, picking apart little by little. And I've come to some real, I think, clarity. Not that I didn't have it before, but I see a lot of people in the Christian realm who are expecting you and I to perform and jump through the hoops. Jesus is not demanding that of any of us. He just says, just trust him, faith in him. You hang your body on the words he said, as if just like you're going to hang up a coat on a hanger and you place it there and you leave it there. That's all he asks of you. So with God's grace, and we handle the word, I think, very delicately, the perfectionists, the ones out there, the motors, the accusers of the brethren, all of those folks, they haven't probably been recipients of grace. Pray that they might be one day, but in the meantime know that you're walking in it and that the preciousness of that no one can take away.
To this house, magnify the Lord, lift up holy hands, our hearts in one accord, worship and bow down before him, exalt his name today. Come into this house,